A woman reaches out and touches the crystal in front of her. As a result, the black spot quickly spreads to her fingers. This is a mysterious and ever-changing world. Giant waves are capable of devouring everything. Countless alternate dimensions intersect with each other. Here, you will lose yourself and heed the demons called to leap into hell. A mysterious story takes place in the year 1899. The cruise ship Kerberos is sailing in the Atlantic. In room 1011, a woman wakes up from her bed. She discovers marks on her wrist, based on her nightmare just now. It seems to be related to her father. He used the cruise ship Prometheus to do something bad. It sealed off the memories of his informed daughter. The woman picks up a newspaper beside her. It reports that the Prometheus has been missing for 4 months, with no news up until now. She places the newspaper on the table and picks up a postcard with a triangular symbol on it. The sender is her brother, inviting the woman to meet in New York. He has uncovered their father's conspiracy and wants to discuss it with his sister. This voyage on the Kerberos is the journey to New York, and the woman's purpose is to meet her brother. She stands in front of the mirror, silently reciting her name and the date, repeating over and over that she is not insane. The woman's name is Mora. She walks to the dining room on the cruise ship to have a meal. It is filled with people from different regions, speaking different languages. A woman in green approaches to strike up a conversation. From their conversation, it can be inferred that Mora is a doctor researching the human brain. She believes that the brain holds the secrets of the universe. However, in England, women can only study medicine and cannot perform surgical procedures. The woman in green is very frustrated. She picks up her teacup. Strangely enough, everyone in the hall raises their cups at the same time. Suddenly, a man named Gray rushes in, saying that his sister needs a doctor. The first-class passengers pretend not to hear, watching as the man is dragged out of the hall. Only Mora follows along. She enters the cheap cabin where the poor reside. A pregnant woman lies on the bed, groaning in pain. Mora deduces that the umbilical cord is wrapped around the baby, causing the intense and continuous pain. A little girl beside them helps translate for Mora. Mora will correct the position of the fetus, allowing the pregnant woman to endure some pain. After Mora's intervention, the intense pain indeed disappears. The man expressed his gratitude. The little girl admired Mora and asked if she had any children. Mora's mind flashed with a few scenes. She ran to the deck to catch her breath. The captain warned Mora that the two cabins couldn't cross paths. At that moment, the crew members approached. They detected a strange signal, possibly belonging to Prometheus. The captain went back to his office to investigate. The signal's location was opposite to the current. It was a 7-hour journey away from them. He decided to change course and head towards the signal source to investigate. People on the ship felt the change in direction and became tense, especially a pair of Spanish brothers. After Mora returned to her room, she discovered similar postcards. There was "Lost things will be found" written on it. Mora kept these letters and went to the captain's office to inquire about Prometheus. The signal the captain received was a set of coordinates. Although the chances of passengers surviving were slim, as long as there was a glimmer of possibility, rescue couldn't be abandoned. The captain said he would provide detailed explanations in an hour. Then he asked Mora to leave the room. After Mora left, he also took out a postcard with a triangular symbol, also stating "Lost things will be found." The captain announced the rescue news, which sparked outrage among the people. But refusing was futile. Who let the helm be in captain's hands? The Kerberos set sail towards the coordinates and actually saw the Prometheus. The captain ordered the signal flare to be fired, and the red light illuminated the cruise ship, bringing an ominous atmosphere. The first mate advised him to turn back and seek rescue from the airline company, but the captain decided to take 3 people over to have a look. Mora said she was a doctor and could be of help. Before departure, the captain also brought along a priest. After all, the Prometheus had thousands of passengers, and who knew how many had died? A small team boarded the lifeboat and approached the Prometheus. No matter how they called out, there was no response. The Prometheus was silent. It looked like a huge tomb. The second mate stayed in the lifeboat to provide support, while others climbed aboard using the ladder. At that moment, the continuous signal stopped. Was there really someone on the Prometheus? Everyone carried their lights and searched around. Inside was in ruins. With no one in sight, the captain noticed a hairband with a familiar pattern on it. He put it in his pocket and ignored Mora's inquiries. Then the captain led the way to the control room and unexpectedly found that the telegraph machine was already broken. Where did the signals received by the Kerberos come from? The ghost ship is filled with mysteries, and no matter how they search, there is no trace of anyone. At that moment, Moore saw a green beetle. She inexplicably followed the beetle and arrived in front of a row of cabinets. The cabinet doors were held shut with an iron rod. In the next second, there was a loud noise. Moore opened the cabinet door, and the captain nervously raised his gun. As the door opened, a noble little boy was revealed. He silently crawled out and handed a black triangle pyramid to Moore. In a hidden corner unknown to the others, a mysterious man climbed aboard the Kerberos. He walked into the cabin, dripping wet, and approached the door of Moore's room. Listening carefully, after confirming that there was no one, he went to the next room and grabbed a green beetle. Using the beetle, he opened the door to room 1013. The group returned to the Kerberos, and the captain received unexpected news. Upon learning that the missing ship was found, the company actually instructed him to sink the Prometheus, and now all compasses were malfunctioning. All of this is definitely related to the Prometheus. The captain immediately went to find Moore and asked if the little boy had said anything, but after being rescued, the boy remained silent like a mute, and he didn't explain the origin of the triangle pyramid. Besides his clothes, the boy only had a gold ring. While the captain was speaking, suddenly they heard a burst of singing, but Moore couldn't hear any sound. The captain recognized it as his daughter's voice. Even though Moore ran away, Moore returned to her room and saw the mysterious man standing at her door. The man said he came out to investigate after hearing noise from the next room. Then he introduced himself as Daniel. Moore felt that she thought this person looked familiar, but couldn't remember anything. On the other side, the captain returned to the bridge and looked at the nearby Prometheus with a heart full of questions, because the Kerberos, just like the ill-fated Prometheus, didn't carry any cargo, and the cabins weren't fully occupied. The company had no profit from this route. The 45,000-ton Prometheus was undamaged, so why sink it? And now all the compasses were malfunctioning, all of which must be related to Prometheus. The captain could only temporarily suspend the voyage and wait without taking any action. This caused the second mate to be dissatisfied, as he believed the company should replace the captain, especially since the captain had just experienced an accident. It turned out the captain's wife had set the fire. She burned all 3 children, including herself, to death, and that embroidered ribbon belonged to the captain's daughter. At that moment, the man heard the singing again and rushed out to check. To his surprise, he saw his daughter Nina walking by. The captain ran over to find her, and the door opened automatically. He pushed the door and entered, only to find himself in his own home, exactly as it was before the fire. Tears filled the captain's eyes as he walked towards Nina and embraced her, crying. In the next moment, Nina started to burn, and intense flames knocked the captain down. When he got up, the place had turned into ruins, with char marks everywhere. The green beetle appeared, and the captain followed it forward. Crawling into a narrow fireplace, he kept climbing upward and returned to the cruise ship room. There were triangular symbols on the movable floor, indicating some kind of connection in the mysterious events. On the other side, Moore also discovered the same symbol behind the boy's ear, but he still didn't speak. The ship had no compass for navigation, and no decision had been made regarding what to do with the Prometheus. The ship remained stationary, and the nobles wanted to find some amusement to pass the boring time. A French couple who came for their honeymoon had their own thoughts. The French man had his eyes on a Japanese woman on board, unaware that she and her maid didn't speak Japanese at all, and communicated in Cantonese. The woman in the green dress noticed the man's intentions and approached him to strike up a conversation. In reality, this woman was a procuress involved in international business, and the fake Japanese woman was one of her prostitutes. The French man understood her implication, but maintained his aristocratic demeanor and didn't speak directly. Meanwhile, his wife seemed to develop a liking for a certain black man on the ship. However, the ship couldn't remain stationary indefinitely. The captain learned from the crew member Oleg that there were still 3,000 tons of coal remaining. After careful consideration, he gathered everyone and announced that they would return to London and tow Prometheus back to Europe, because the return journey was shorter than continuing forward. This decision sparked strong discontent among the passengers. At that moment, Daniel took advantage of the chaos and blended into the crowd. The reason for his delay was that he had lured the little girl onto the deck using a beetle and performed some actions on her. Ignoring the excited emotions of everyone, the captain called Moore to the deck for a conversation. He told Moore that the company had decided to sink the ship, believing that it was to conceal the truth, and he presented the letter with the triangular symbol, sent together with a photo of his wife, daughter, and the Prometheus. What is the connection, after all? Mora's brain can't handle so much information either. She wants to go back to her room to sort out her thoughts, but she ran into Daniel again. Mora ignored him and returned to 1011. As soon as the man returned to his room, he took out a photo of Mora. Evening, the Kerberos ship officially set sail. It was trailing the enormous Prometheus. The second officers looked very worried at the cruise ship. When he turned around, he saw the girl's corpse. He hurriedly went to find the captain. The dead little girl was the one Daniel had provoked with the beetles. After a medical examination, the girl had no external injuries or signs of poisoning. The captain ordered everyone present not to leak any information. At this moment, the ship's speed suddenly slowed down. A group of people went to the deck. Thick fog appeared on the sea surface. Everyone could only wait for the fog to dissipate. Later, the captain called Mora into a room. He revealed to Mora that his wife and daughter died 2 years ago in a fire, but he found a hairband and saw Nina on the Prometheus. Mora initially thought the captain was hallucinating due to excessive pressure, but the captain showed her the secret passage. The captain wanted to know the truth, so he planned to go to the Prometheus and find the captain's diary there. Mora was willing to go with him. The two of them departed on a lifeboat. The second officers had long held a grudge. He believed that the captain's decision harmed everyone, so he planned to overthrow him. The second officers went to the lower class area and found the pregnant woman. Because the deceased girl was her sister, the second officers wanted to make everyone aware that the captain's wrong decision would bring disaster. The crowd became discontented. On the other side, the captain and Mora successfully boarded the Prometheus. The two discovered that there was also a secret passage here. Below, there was a dark compartment surrounded by black tiles. There was nothing special inside. The captain mentioned that a few months ago, a fleet of 3 German ferries was sold to a British investor named Henry. Mora felt startled upon hearing the familiar name. The captain didn't notice and continued speaking. Those British people installed a new communication system and refurbished everything. The frequent appearance of a triangular symbol is the logo of that ferry company. The secret passage must have been created by them. The two of them prepared to go and see the newly installed communication equipment. Headquarters said that it was used to monitor steam engine pressure, but the device had never been activated. The nearby steam boiler had a temperature as high as 900 degrees Celsius. Mora speculated that the bodies on the ship had disappeared without a trace, possibly burned inside the boiler. Yet, Mora didn't find any broken bones or teeth. On the other hand, while searching, the captain found a damaged crew list, and surprisingly, Mora's name was on it. He quickly hid it in his pocket and returned to the Kerberos cruise ship. Ling Yi, a girl from Guangdong, wasn't a geisha purchased by the woman in green. In order to go to New York, she drugged the real geisha and wanted to take her place. As a result, she overdosed the person with drugs and killed her. To conceal the truth, Ling Yi's mother sank the body into the sea. The mother and daughter disguised themselves and boarded the cruise ship. Now, the woman in green wants her to work, and to avoid exposing her identity, Ling Yi decides to take on the job. The first customer is the Frenchman. Fortunately, he only watches Ling Yi dance. Suddenly, he collapses on the ground and convulses. In fact, the Frenchman took medication for epilepsy before coming. Unexpectedly, it couldn't prevent the seizure. There is also a strange letter in his medication box. What's even more bizarre is that the procuress, the woman in green, also has a letter. It seems that these passengers have received different messages. Tonight is destined to be a sleepless night. After inciting the crowd, the second officer returns to the first-class cabin. He discovers more bodies, and their appearances are identical to the girls. He seeks the first officer's advice, wanting to follow the company's plan to sink the ship, but the first officer insists on waiting for the captain to return. The second officer takes people to the lower-class area and encourages everyone to overthrow the captain. Everyone immediately agrees to join, except for Oleg, who wants to warn the captain. The second officer captures and locks him up. By this time, the captain and Mora have already returned to the Kerberos cruise ship. Daniel finds Mora and warns her about the second officer's preparations for a mutiny. On the other side, the priest also ran to inform the captain in person. However, the civilians had already reached the door and gained control of the cruise ship. Daniel took out a remote control during the chaos and pressed a few buttons on it. The mysterious device activated. And the Kerberos ship vanished into thin air. The people on the ship were fine. Everyone initially thought it was the disappearance of the Prometheus, but the compass on the ship returned to normal, and people speculated based on the location information It wasn't the Prometheus that disappeared in place, but the cruise ship they were on. What's even more bewildering is that it can't be determined from the bow of the ship. The Kerberos ship returned to its course from 3 days ago. The second officers couldn't think too much about it and ordered to continue westward, according to their original plan, towards New York. On the other side, the civilians were interrogating the first officers about the deaths on the ship. The first officers had no choice but to reveal the truth about the rescued boy and how people started dying after he came on board. The civilians immediately stormed into the first-class cabin and searched for that boy. They quickly arrived at room 1011, and Mora tried to stop them. She explained that the deaths had nothing to do with the boy, but they forcefully took the keys and opened the door. The boy and the triangular pyramid were both gone. The civilians locked Mora in the room and continued searching for people inside the room. Mora heard tapping sounds on the floor. It turned out the boy was hiding in a secret compartment under the bed. Mora pulled him out and prepared to pick the lock to meet the captain. The boy released a beetle to help unlock the door. He led Mora to find people, and at the same time, the imprisoned captain did not sit idly by. He and the priest pried open a ventilation duct and escaped. Ake led the French woman over upon hearing the noise. They also stood on the captain's side. Ake aimed the iron nail at the shackle's clasp. The priest indeed opened it. Meanwhile, the Frenchman returned to the room and found his wife missing. He was extremely panicked. Here, I need to explain the relationship between this couple and Ake. In fact, the Frenchman is not a nobleman. He and Ake are both soldiers. They spent several weeks in the trenches, waiting in vain for reinforcements. The Frenchman decided to strip off the uniform and medals of a fallen lieutenant. He took on the identity of the deceased officers to survive. Ake disagreed but was reported as a deserter by the Frenchman. Ake managed to escape and board the ship with great effort. Ake approached the French woman, probably to warn her that her newlywed husband was an imposter. The captain planned to get a lifeboat and find a way to board the Prometheus. Once there, they would fix the telegraph machine and send a distress signal. The captain was unaware that the two ships had already separated. Meanwhile, the boy and Mora followed the beetle and successfully found the captain and others, while Clay saw everything and followed them into the room. He also brought the second officers and his group along. The boy, concerned about Mora and the others' safety, approached the second officers voluntarily. Ake refused to let the child take risks and tried to stop him from going. As a result, he was shot by the enemy. Mora, the captain, and the others were also captured and taken back to the cabin. Ake stood up. It turned out the bullet had only injured his arm. Ake picked up a hammer to rescue the people. Fortunately, the one guarding the captain was just a civilian. He knocked out the guard with a few strikes of the hammer. He discovered that there were not only the captain, but also many nobles locked inside the room. Everyone had to rescue the boy as soon as possible. The other party was being judged on the deck. Clay and the pregnant woman's mother, who were religious, took the lead and condemned the boy as a devil incarnate. They believed that throwing him off the ship was the only way to stop everything. The crowd expressed their support loudly after hearing this. At a critical moment, Mora arrived with a group of people. The two groups started fighting, and the deck became chaotic. Mora ran towards the boy, but he was still caught by Clay's mother. Without mercy, she threw him into the deep sea. Daniel took the stunned Mora away. The captain also called for everyone to retreat. The Frenchman, who arrived a bit late, quickly grabbed his wife. Nervously, he asked her if Ake had said anything. After hesitating, he confessed the truth. The key person was already dead, and the mutiny on the cruise ship temporarily subsided. The two groups found their own places to rest. Daniel comforted the disheartened Mora. Shortly after, the captain took Mora aside and asked her about the passenger list, but Mora didn't know anything. At that moment, a nearby cabinet made a sound, followed by a burst of white light. The little boy unexpectedly appeared again. The people present were almost scared to death, but he just hugged Mora. He was also holding a triangular pyramid in his hand. What on earth had happened to the eerie ghost ship? What was the purpose of the triangular pyramid? Thousands of passengers disappeared without a trace. The sole surviving boy, is he a human or a ghost? The person who possesses the mysterious beetle must be the key to the mystery. It's highly possible that the Kerberos ship has become the second ghost ship. In the next second, Mora suddenly woke up. Could the boy from earlier have been just an illusion? Daniel told her, "You were just asleep." The boy was locked back in the cabinet by the captain. Everything felt like a scene from the Prometheus. Mora wanted to rescue the boy. However, she was grabbed by the captain. The fact that the boy could come back to life after jumping into the sea was illogical. He urged Mora to quickly think. about how she ended up on the passenger list. Suddenly, the door opened. The pregnant woman walked in. She couldn't stand her mother's murder of the boy and decided to join the captain's side. The boy pounded on the cabinet door. Mora took the opportunity to rush forward. Daniel leaped forward. Someone, in a panic, instinctively fired a gun. The bullet's trajectory unexpectedly frowsy in midair. Everyone appeared frousing in time. Mora approached and squeezed the bullet open. She turned around and released the boy. She asked him if all of this was related to him. The other person simply pulled Mora away. As they left, the frown-scene state came to an end. Everyone looked at the open cabinet in confusion. They didn't understand what had happened. Suddenly, a piercing alarm sounded. Everyone didn't know the meaning of this sound. Then the alarm stopped. It was replaced by a subtle ticking sound. Some people in the hall suddenly lowered their hands. They left in synchronized, orderly steps. This included passengers and co-workers from the cabins. They arrived on the deck like zombies. Then they climbed over the railing. They threw themselves into the Atlantic. The entire ship was filled with people jumping overboard. It looked like dropping dumplings. The boy led Mora through the crowd. They returned to room 1011. Then they moved the bed and crawled into a hidden compartment. The little boy released a green beetle. Using it, they opened a mysterious passage. Mora followed and crawled inside. On the other side of the passage was another space. The little boy disappeared. Not far away was a house. Daniel followed. He discovered that the passage had closed. He quickly took out a remote control and operated it. He reopened the secret passage, but Daniel didn't see Mora. Only the little boy was present. He questioned the boy about his actions. Through their conversation, it was revealed that Mora had indeed lost a certain memory, and the sinking of the Prometheus had not happened for the first time. Daniel seemed to want to prevent this cycle. At this moment, Mora entered the building. It was a mental hospital. Following her intuition, she arrived at room 1011. In front of her was a chair. It was the same chair like what appeared in Mora's dream. Mora's father suddenly appeared. He demanded something from her. He had someone capture Mora. They injected her with strange medication. When the woman woke up again, she found herself back on the cruise ship. Mora immediately went to find the captain. However, the captain no longer trusted Mora. First, it was about the list. Then, the boy disappeared out of thin air. He questioned Mora about what she knew. Mora followed the captain into a room for a detailed conversation. Mora's father was the owner of the company that bought the ship. She believed her father had done something on the ship, something related to studying the passengers' brains. After she finished speaking, she took out an envelope sent by her brother. About 4 months ago, he had arranged to meet her at a certain dock. Mora rushed to the appointment, while her brother didn't show up. It was the day before he went missing. The Prometheus departed from the same dock. Her brother's disappearance coincided with the cruise ships. Mora had also lost that memory. She might have actually been on the Prometheus. After discovering her father's secret, her memories were erased. Then, Mora saw a green beetle. She walked over and caught it. She moved the single bed and entered the hidden compartment. She placed the beetle on the ground. As expected, another secret passage appeared. The two of them crawled into a different space. The scene before them transformed into the captain's house. They hadn't left the Kerberos. Whether this place was real or illusory, the two of them crawled out of the compartment. The captain took out the list. He revealed a shocking fact. His name was unexpectedly on the list as well. Moreover, he was the captain of the Prometheus. On the other side, the headquarters received a telegram about a suicide incident. It consisted of only 2 words, ship sinking. The crew members handed the telegram to the first mate. The first mate took out a controller similar to Daniel's. With a few presses, the crew members immediately collapsed. It turned out he was also aware of the time loop world. The situation became even more mysterious. Daniel, who wanted to prevent the loop from happening again, connected the device next to the steam engine to the remote control. He successfully shut down the eerie sound. The people who had jumped overboard on the deck immediately returned to normal. But after the recent catastrophe, only a few people remained out of thousands. The first mate came over with the telegram. Mora didn't understand. Why was the same message being transmitted again? Daniel walked over. He said, "This time, it's not the sinking of the Prometheus. It's the Kerberos." On the other side, Mora's father received a confidential telegram from the first mate. He walked to the window and pulled back the curtains. He looked at the gigantic black pyramid outside, lost in thought. Now the Kerberos was in the vast ocean. The engine had also stopped due to workers jumping overboard. If they didn't return to land soon, everyone would die. The captain instructed a man to start the engine in the engine room. Then he instructed everyone to divide their tasks. sending distress signals and searching for the missing boy. Through the meticulous search of everyone, they unexpectedly discover mysterious crystals in the corridor. Daniel warned everyone not to touch them recklessly, to avoid unnecessary trouble. The black crystals were still growing. Mora and the captain, who knew about the hidden compartment, entered the secret space again. This time they returned to the mental hospital. It was built by Mora's father for his wife, with the intention of curing his wife's amnesia and dementia. Mora felt that the boy might be here, yet there was no one inside the room. The captain pulled back the curtains. He discovered the exterior was the ship's metal hull. Mora walked to the other side of the wall. She forcefully smashed the door panel, revealing more metal behind it. So, it turns out they have been on the ship all along. The two of them continued to search inside the house. Unexpectedly, there were black crystals here as well. Then Daniel appeared. Mora and the captain didn't trust him. They wanted to capture Daniel, but he pushed the captain aside. He took out the remote control and operated it. The captain was transported to another space. Daniel looked at Mora sadly. He urged Mora to wake up quickly. They got married 12 years ago. Everything in front of them isn't real. Mora didn't believe this explanation. She believed Daniel was working for her father. She held a gun and locked him in room 1011. Mora ran outside. She shouted her father's name, asking him not to hide in the dark. Then she threw stones into the sky. Surprisingly, it caused a crack to appear. Mora walked over and felt around. She forcefully pried open a piece of board. Behind it was a black metal hull. This was also a part of the cruise ship. Mora's father was watching her from outside the monitor. There wasn't much time left for everyone. The black crystal spread everywhere. The woman in green touched it. The black crystal unexpectedly crawled onto her finger. The first mate ignored the critical situation. He went into the cabinet. A golden light flashed. He appeared in front of Mora's father. The other person instructed the first mate, "Find the boy as soon as possible. Get hold of the black triangular pyramid. This is crucial for the success or failure of the mission." It was evening. Lightning and thunder. A sense of impending death enveloped the passengers. The captain desperately fled from the compartment, but he found himself on the Prometheus. The surroundings were filled with identical wreck ships. On the other side, Mora crawled out of the compartment and returned to the cruise ship. The storm outside was unusually fierce. She went outside to find people, but couldn't locate the captain. She didn't find him in the compartment either. Finally, she walked to Daniel's room. She pushed aside the single bed. She discovered her own photograph. She entered the compartment 1013. Mora felt this place was familiar. Memories of intimacy with Daniel flashed through her mind. There was a family photo on the table. It turned out the man hadn't lied. They were indeed a married couple, and that boy was Mora's child. At this moment, Daniel, who was confined in a mental hospital, pried open the wall. He crawled into the cables. Through various portals, he entered different simulated worlds. He attempted to find the boy quickly. After enduring countless hardships, he finally found his son. The other person asked him if he would fail again this time. The boy returned the wedding ring to his father, asked him to make sure wakes up his mother. The first mate locked onto the boy's location. It transmitted the coordinates to Mora's father. Daniel returned to the cruise ship. He quickly ran into room 1013. The compartment door was still wide open. He crawled in and approached Mora. Daniel said, "The son's name is Elliot. Your current memories are all fake. There's no time for further explanations. We must escape before the loop restarts." Daniel said, "Mora's father needs to shut down the simulation. Mora must remember the program password. It's the only way to escape." Mora remembered the necklace she wore. She took it out and opened it. Indeed, there was a key inside. The old man saw everything on the surveillance. That's what he was looking for. Daniel pulled his wife into a room. He took out a device. He connected the remote control device. It displayed 11 minutes and 24 seconds until shutdown. Daniel quickly explained, "The cruise ship simulation has repeated dozens of times. Each time lasts for 8 days. Not a single ship has successfully reached New York. The people on board are trapped in a loop, continuously undergoing simulations." Daniel, because he found the password key, firmly believed they would escape successfully this time. The boy and the triangular pyramid fell into the enemy's hands. The two of them returned to 1011. They discovered that the compartment door was already closed. Then Mora's father's voice sounded. He said the game was about to end. "This time, you also failed to escape. If you want to save your son, come find me with the key." Immediately after, the countdown began. Huge waves surged on the sea surface. The cruise ship was trapped in a vortex. The simulated world was about to end. The captain trapped on the Prometheus heard a loud noise. He saw the appearance of the Kerberos. Its simulation mission was completed. They were all thrown here together. There were other broken down ships on the sea surface. Mora and the others were still on top. The captain climbed aboard the Kerberos using a lifeboat. Mora took the opportunity to confess everything she knew. This space was a virtual world created by her father, Henry. Henry was using everyone for an experiment. To prove credibility, Mora took out that letter. Everyone's expression changed, because they had also received similar letters. The various reasons mentioned in the letter led them to board this ship. Then Mora led everyone into the cabin. She took out that key, saying it was the only way out, but they didn't know what the key was meant to open. Little did she know, the passengers didn't believe her. Only the captain chose to stay behind. The two of them entered the compartment again. At this moment, the black crystals started spreading rapidly. The person releasing these crystals was Daniel. He wanted to destroy the entire system using them. These crystals caused space to become chaotic. The survivors were jumping between different spaces, completely losing their sense of direction, witnessing various strange phenomena. The first mate noticed Daniel infiltrating the mainframe with the intention of altering the simulation structure. His purpose was to forcibly awaken Mora, disregarding the lives and deaths of others. Meanwhile, Henry was explaining the origins to his grandson. Mora's statement was incorrect. In fact, Mora was the creator of this world. The boy was suffering from a terminal illness in the real world. To preserve her son's consciousness, Mora and Daniel built a simulated world. They placed the child inside it. Only by inserting the key into the black triangular pyramid could they end this world. Henry, who was caught up in this, also wanted to leave. At this moment, the first mate found Mora and the captain. He demanded that the two of them hand over the key. Then, he used a remote control to knock down the captain. He brought Mora in front of the old man. Mora handed over the key to save her son. The next moment, she was caught by her father. Henry told his daughter that the mastermind behind all of this is not someone else, it's you. It's because of her that everyone is trapped here. Mora denies it. The father ordered his subordinates to inject medicine into his daughter. He wanted to trap her forever in the loop, trapped in a virtual purgatory surrounded by crystals and flames. Meanwhile, Mora's father inserted the key into the triangular pyramid to exit the game. Nothing happened after the key was inserted. Daniel had already written the system code. It was impossible to exit with the original key. The simulated space was deteriorating rapidly. The survivors were waiting for the descent of death. Meanwhile, Mora woke up from unconsciousness. She realized she was back before the hospital. She still had her wedding ring on her hand. She crawled into the toy room she originally created for her son. Daniel had been waiting for a while. He took out a new triangular pyramid and handed it to Mora. The key was the ring on Mora's hand. Daniel explained everything he knew, gradually piecing together the truth. Mora, the creator of the simulated world, was trapped here. It's because Mora's brother took over the program. This caused the original setting to become a looped game. Daniel instructed his wife, "Leave here immediately and stop her brother. Things are much more complicated than we imagined." Mora put the ring back into the groove. She successfully returned to the real world. She was lying in a hibernation pod. The other passengers on the ship were also nearby. Their brains connected to simulate the world. They had to block their memories before entering, to experience a virtual life and alleviate the boredom of long journeys. I speculate that there was a problem with the system earlier, as the developer, Mora, as manipulated by her brother to fix the bug. That's why she had memory loss on the cruise ship. She didn't know it was a false world. She almost got trapped in the simulated game as well. Fortunately, she left clues before entering. That's the necklace key. It's the key to awaken herself. At this moment, everyone is on a massive spaceship. Outside is the vast universe. The display screen receives a message from her brother. It is now the year 2099. This is a spaceship called Prometheus. It is executing the human spark program. It is uncertain whether Mora has returned to reality. This season ends with an open-ended conclusion. If you like my channel, please give me a subscription.